And before we start, I need to give a shout out to Grace Sharkey. She did me a solid. She invited me onto her platform this week. So I was on her Sirius XM radio show. So again, shout out to Grace. I truly appreciate all of the support that you've provided, from that original write-up to, just all the people that you've, introduced me to. So thank you very much. It looks like we're going to be having our guests join us momentarily, but very excited because you got to clear the air, man. With the market being what it is, these shift in cycles, and now more than ever, motor carriers and freight brokers need to be on the same page because with these fuel prices being what they are, the freight still has to get moved. So who's going to do it, and why would they want to do it for lesser rates than they were getting 2 months ago? So now we do have our guests on stage. Hey, Dee, how you feeling tonight?
Good evening. It takes a minute for my unmute. I apologize. It's
no, you're all good,
How
Dee.
are you?
I'm feeling very blessed, feeling very grateful, very excited to be here. And most importantly, I am happy to be able to talk to you on this platform because, we've been working together for a very long time. And, I know all the game that you have and all the ways that you've helped me. So I think it'd be perfect to speak with you about this topic, clearing the air, clearing all the misconceptions that might be going on in the minds of a carrier right now with the market changing. With you, though, I would love for you to, introduce yourself. If you could, I know you're a broker, but let's talk about it a little bit more. Who are you and why are you a broker?
Well, by circumstance, basically. I started off just as a college kid. I didn't know what I was going to do, what my career was going to be. I started doing international business. And eventually I came back to Georgia, switched schools. And my guidance counselor was like, you know what, you really ought to switch your major to logistics because it's a growing field here in Atlanta and you will get a job immediately out of college. And I was like, well, that sounds good. Sign me up for that. Mm-hmm. So I switched my major and I ended up doing a specialization in supply chain management and logistics. And as soon as I graduated, just like the advisor stated, I was offered jobs. However, they weren't quite the jobs I was really expecting right away. I thought I was going to be, doing production line at Coca-Cola or something like that. But right. Because I was, brand new, out of school, no experience, there was only a select amount of people or companies that would take a chance on me with just book knowledge. So I saw a posting for a logistics company and they were saying, no experience needed, logistics professionals, come apply. And I applied. And at first I came in and I was like, I don't know if this is going to fit because it was maybe 50 men and 2 women. And I'm thinking, this probably isn't going to work out too well for me. And maybe 2 of them had the same hue of skin tone that I did.
Gotcha.
So, but lo and behold, they gave me a job. It wasn't what I expected to get as a freshly, right out of school, but they gave me a job and I learned with another broker. I didn't know anything about freight brokerage. That was nothing. They taught you about that in school. It was not taught. I learned from a freight broker how to do the job, what it was. And then my next thing was like, okay, how can I make more money doing this? So then they said, try to become a certified transportation broker. Mm-hmm. And, we will increase your salary per se. And I was like, okay, I'll give that a try. And I got this book. I don't know, it's probably like 350 pages, stupid big book. And they gave me 6 months to practice, to read it. I had other options available. I could have done like an online training, or I could just do the book and take the test, which is what I did. And I was just one of those fortunate few that passed. And lucky for me, my company at the time that I was working for said, okay, we'll pay the upfront cost, but if you fail the test, you have to pay the company back the money. I was fortunate that I passed and I didn't have to pay the company back the money. So long story short, I just kind of fell into brokering. But as I started doing it more, I started seeing different personalities. And as I learned more about what is ethical or what is not ethical, and I saw different people, and, I started to see, there are some people, just like any business, there are some people that are not good characters and not working in good faith. So I just said, you know what, I'm going to make it a point to try to do this the right way.
I hear you. So, all right. So you out of college, you were able to capitalize to get a supply chain job. It wasn't necessarily a broker per se, but you were close enough with a colleague so that they were able to teach you the ropes on how to become a freight broker. And then you found out that if you became a certified freight broker, you get a bump in pay. All right. So to you, what does it mean to be a TIA certified freight broker, like versus just somebody just starting their own agency, brand new, fresh to game?
Yeah, it is a lot of information.
Okay.
A lot of also legal stuff in there that they don't teach you on the job. For instance, trying to pressure a driver to do a next day run on something that's 800 miles. Legally, you're not supposed to do that. But, if you don't have that experience or that knowledge, you wouldn't know that. True. So it's really just more in-depth knowledge than what you learn just working as a broker. It's just, I would say more book knowledge, but it is more applicable than what you would learn in college.
That definitely makes sense. And with this day and age, brokers better watch out because per FreightWays, motor carriers are submitting way more citations and reports against freight brokers for requiring them to do those type of illegal runs. So, if you
there's a legal responsibility there too.
Right.
If you do something and something happens and you encourage that driver to do that, you could be held legally responsible.
Right. So, everybody involved, including a freight dispatcher. So, apparently that was one of the things that came out when we had one of the insurance agencies up here that, although a dispatcher might feel as though they are not responsible, if something like that does happen, accepting of a load that's going to deliver way before it would be legally capable of delivering, and somebody is, in a compromising position, an accident, something, depending on who the lawyer is, they can come after everybody involved in that. So that's cool. You know what I mean? Just the fact that you have that advanced knowledge that lets you know the type of things that are okay versus, frowned upon, essentially.
Right.
Yes, ma'am. Okay. So you became a freight broker, and how long have you been brokering so far?
About 15 years.
15 magical years or hard years?
Hard years.
Okay. I'm not mad at you.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm not mad at you. Okay. So that means that if you've been in the industry and you've been brokering for 15 plus years, that means that you do have a good understanding of the relationship, the dynamic between a carrier and a broker. And, let me just ask this just to get it out of the way. What are the benefits of a carrier going directly, utilizing the services of a freight broker versus going directly to the carrier? Like, I mean, excuse me, directly to the customer and or shipper. Like, what would be that benefit of them saying, you know what, I do want to work with Dee because she does what?
Okay. Well, for one, payment. It's a lot easier and faster to get paid through a broker than a customer. Sometimes they take 90 to 180 days to get paid. And working with drivers, they want money quickly. The paperwork to facilitate these shipments, sometimes these shippers, they don't know about BOL. Sometimes they don't produce them. We have to make those shipments. They want updates, tracking, open line of communication. Some drivers are willing to do that. Some drivers are not. They're not required to have additional insurance in case something goes wrong. Like there could be, for instance, the shipper doesn't necessarily research a carrier's insurance policy and the commodities that they're allowed to haul as well as a broker would, because they just don't know how to do that. That's not their specialty. So a carrier going to a shipper, yeah, you think it's a good thing, but ultimately the shippers are like, well, yeah, we can do a few runs with you, but if something goes wrong, that trucker is in huge trouble. And I don't really think truckers really understand all the liability they open themselves up to, not knowing how to facilitate a shipment all the way around. Like some guys know how to do it, but some guys, they don't.
Right.
And then also too, shippers, all of a sudden they increase their demand, and that one guy or his 2 or 3 trucks can't handle it. If you're dealing with a broker can get the truckers that can handle it. They can also make sure that trucker is a good trucker and a qualified trucker and has good scores. And, it's more riskier, I believe, for the customer to go directly to a trucker, unless it's a larger enterprise where they know that, they're going to meet all the qualifications. But if you're dealing with a smaller trucking company, it's a lot of things that can go wrong for the customer where they have a shield to work with a broker.
Oh, okay. No, I feel you. So you just gave us both sides. I didn't even ask for that.
Mm-hmm.
You gave us the benefits of the carrier working with a broker,
Mm-hmm.
as well as a customer going directly to a broker versus to a carrier. So thank you for that. So when you mention just the kind of like the safety net of a carrier, a shipper would have by going through a broker, just because of, maybe the capabilities or even the, I don't know, the business acumen of a small carrier. What are some of the things that you would say would make a solid carrier, one that you would actually, the ones that you send your loads to first these days, you know what I mean? So like, what makes those a solid carrier versus what makes a carrier unattractive?
Okay, so are we speaking on if I'm brokering out freight to someone?
Yeah,
Okay.
That's your normal bag. So let's talk about that.
Okay. The first thing that makes you attractive is an OMC number.
Right. Because dispatching these new authorities, man, you get rejected left and right.
Yeah, the old MC number is attractive. Established history. Even better if, we have a relationship and worked with you before, we kind of know how you work. No offense, Jory, you run a great dispatching service. You're always a joy. One of my favorites to work with. But just broadly speaking, just broadly speaking, a lot of brokers don't really like to work with dispatch services.
That's true. I think I'm doing my job to change that perception, but go ahead. Yeah. I digress.
Yeah. Let's see. Driver transparency. If we're given the driver's information right off the bat, name, truck, trailer, cell, then we're not, we're feeling more confident you actually have a driver that we can talk to
Right.
instead of you're trying to figure it out as you go. I mentioned this kind of a little bit earlier, but a mid-size carrier is ideal. I'm not one too small, not one too big, but mid-size carrier with more than one driver and more than 2 or 3 trucks. Your origin state makes a big difference in terms of fraud, because as brokers now, we have to look out for fraud.
What you ain't putting no Cali trucks on your load?
Yeah. I mean, it's, it doesn't really make you as attractive, especially if you have a new MC number and you're out of Cali,
Right.
So, Cali, Texas, Florida.
Oh, Texas too?
Yeah, a lot of theft out of Laredo, El Paso.
Right at the border, huh?
Yeah, a lot of fraud. Let's see. I talked about communication. Good CSA scores.
Okay, talk about that. Break that down for me so I can understand what you're talking about.
Sure. So CSA scores, a driver is rated on how they do with unsafe, when they do inspections by the DOT. Unsafe driving, out of service hours, meaning are you operating within legal hours? Driver fitness, controlled substance, I think, are the 4. If you're a 72 or if you're flagged, we go to truck stop. If you're flagged 72 or higher in any 3 of those categories, you're too much of a liability, so that's an out. So you want your scores to be as low as possible.
Gotcha.
In all of those.
Oh, sorry about that. Not to interrupt. For people, for a carrier who wants to, check out their scores, is there a way to do that for free, or do they have to have like some type of paid subscription service?
I'm aware of a free service. That would be nice, though. I mean, they probably do need to do more to help drivers with that. Something where they can go check, like a credit score. You can go check it.
Right.
See,
that should be on you. To me, that should be on the safer snapshot. If you're asking me, if it's that important and it's based on safety, why not?
But to take it a step further, help these guys figure out what they need to do to lower the scores. Other than just tell them. Some of these guys get them up high and they don't really know how to get them back down, so they burn their MC and they start all over again. Just yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, that's why we partner with a lot of individuals who are smart in that aspect. I personally know one of my favorite people to talk to about anything compliance is definitely Kelsey. She was with the Truck and Breakfast Club, so very knowledgeable young lady. So Legacy Consulting, I believe. Y'all holler at her if y'all ever want to learn how to get your scores in the right spot. But okay, so that's good information. I mean,
one other thing I probably would say in terms of making carriers more attractive, it's probably having some kind of specialization, like a hazmat. Your drivers are hazmat certified or tanker endorsed. Or if you run teams, or if you have TWIC cards, like those kind of things are way more attractive because we know we can use them more than just your regular day-to-day freight.
Right. Well, that's a good.
Mm-hmm.
So what about something as simple as having a TWIC card? Driver having a TWIC card, is that not specialized enough?
That's pretty good. I mean, TWIC card is good because that of course requires background check and clearance by the government, and not everybody can get cleared through that.
Right.
So
right.
that lowers the driver pool, which means there's less drivers available to do it. So when you do get that freight, you're paid a little bit more better too, right? Because the competition isn't as high.
Right. You are in a smaller pool. That's like a set aside if we're talking about government solicitation. So y'all get your certifications up if that's something that you're into. Okay. So All right, those. I think those are very solid ways that a carrier could distinguish themselves, become a strong carrier. What's the quickest way for a carrier to kind of burn down the great reputation that they had built up with you?
um, Unprofessionalism, going to, as a carrier, you kind of represent the broker. So when you go to our shippers and receivers, if you're there, acting up, cursing out the people, you're not loading me fast enough, or, that will get you on a status where it's like, I don't know if we want to work with this person anymore. Let's see, Back-Solicitation.
Well, that's a problem.
That's a problem. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that was, I think I told you recently, I got back solicited by somebody I think we both know. And he thought that he would be better suited to deal directly with the customer than the broker going to the customer. And he found out that he couldn't quite service everything that the customer needed. So they essentially came back to us and said, can you help us? We're sorry. We booked with one of your drivers direct and it's not working out.
Right. Well, let me ask you this. Have you tendered any loads over to that driver since you found out they back solicited?
No, sir. And from what I understand, that MC is no longer active. So he's probably going to be starting up again soon with something new.
Oh, dang.
And more than likely, he'll probably try it again.
Well, I hate to hear that. You got to get those business practices to a stronger, point.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. All right. So back solicitation, that's a huge one.
Stolen loads.
Stolen loads.
Yeah, stolen loads. If a carrier has a history of stolen loads, which means that they're not always doing their due diligence, right? If you're allowing your drivers and your equipment to sit at a Walmart or a truck stop unsecured and the freight gets stolen, that kind of comes back on the carrier to some degree, because it's like, were you doing everything you could have done to kind of, keep that freight safe?
Right.
So, that is another thing that could get you burned.
Right.
Let's see, double brokering. That's a huge one. Double brokering. Oh, so many people try it. You book a load with me and then I see it posted on the boards and you're trying to cover it just like I'm trying to cover it. And we do not have a co-broker agreement. Mm-hmm. That's unauthorized rebrokering of freight. That means our customer did not select you as a company to move their freight, to entrust their freight. They did not screen you. They didn't do anything, or else you would have had the freight from the get-go. They gave it to us.
Right.
So that is a huge no. And on top of that, we lose a lot of transparency and control over the shipment when someone else gets it and they give it to who knows what, because they may not screen their drivers as thoroughly as I would maybe, So.
Right. So let me ask this. When you say double brokering, you legitimately mean that a brokerage is reaching out to you on a posted load that you posted, and then they are repackaging that bad boy as if it's theirs, right?
Exactly.
Okay. Because there's so many different, ways in which I think of double brokering. It's also, to me, when a carrier accepts a load and then they, they subcontract it out. You know what I mean? So I guess subcontracting is the technical, but I do think about that as double brokering. And lastly, I think about double brokering when dispatch service. I hate to say that this happens, but whatever. We're trying to make the industry stronger, so we got to bring more awareness. A dispatcher who has multiple MCs that they are booking loads on behalf, they will actually, say, okay, this carrier right here has a very strong, background. Their authority age is old. They're a year old. And this company over here that I just brought on, they're only 2 days old, so they can't get any load. So they'll book it under the older authority. Whole time they're planning on having it run. with that newer authority carrier. So, that's the third way that I think of double brokering. So, cool. Yeah, I can see how all of those are good ways to, take you right to being, getting those freight guard reports and things of that. Okay, so cool. Appreciate you mentioning that. So now we're here, right? We're trying to get some clarification on, well, my ultimate goal out of this conversation is to, clear the air. Right now the market is changing. Rates are, dwindling, and carriers that might have gotten into the industry during the pandemic. So, higher rates, they probably didn't think about some of those operating expenses. So they're getting squeezed now with their biggest variable cost, fuel, like skyrocketing. So there has to be some type of give here. And I'm hoping that you, with your experience, can help us understand where, the give and take can take place. So for you, I know personally that you have been on the pricing side of freight. Okay. So what does that conversation really look like when, you're being told there's a freight opportunity? This is what it is. This is what it requires, the type of vehicle that it requires. What's that process like, talking to them about the rates today versus what it was, let's just say 2 months ago, to say before things started to shift?
Mm-hmm. So a lot of the pricing we do right now mostly is via email or EDI. And they solicit out to several brokers. So it's not a lot of conversation involved. And the key for brokerages is they want to get the freight and still be able to cover it, at a profit. But to get the freight, you got to bid lower enough to get it from other broker competitors. So the customers kind of put us against each other. Now, for the bids or contracts that we were already awarded pre-fuel increase, now we have gone back to those people, and the customers, they already know. We say, listen, our drivers, we can't do it at this rate anymore. They're asking for more money. Those contract bids are stuff that is already awarded to us. Most of our customers have kind of worked with us in terms of increasing those rates. In turn, and it trickles down to our drivers, because those contract loads often have dedicated carriers on them. And we'll let them know. They'll say, hey, D, fuel's gone up. And I was like, yeah, I know. I told the customer we got more money. Here's some extra money. And it works out fine. But the problem is the spot freight, right? Because you have to hit that sweet spot. You have to be low enough to get the freight from your competitors, but then you still have to move it. And that is a little harder unless it's something, a different type of freight where it's like FEMA, something that's emergency warranted, where they're just like, whatever, open checkbook, just get us a truck and bill us, whatever. But yeah, most of the time our customers have been pretty understanding. And also too, our customers will put us against each other. I had one the other day that was like, this broker came in at this price. Can you match them? So we're like, well, and if brokerages don't get freight, that's our bread and butter. So the goal is to try to get freight. And sometimes we'll say, okay, we'll try it. We'll see. We'll see if we can get you a truck at this price, because we just don't know. We're like, right, it's really low. That's really low. But we'll let you know if we get something at this price. And if not, we'll tell you our next best thing. So these customers out here, or shippers, they're pretty savvy too now, because that's their goal, is to try to get their product moved for as low as possible, which is why they go to brokers, right? And they have us bidding against each other, and in some instances, seeing what the other is bidding. So it's just a bidding war,
right? Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I can understand that, especially, I'm in the process. I wanna own a home here in the Atlanta area, and it is a seller's market. People are going crazy, out being outbidded, taking $100,000 over the asking price, and it's still being rejected because somebody just bid higher. You know what I mean? So I understand
Yeah.
the notion of supply and demand, but when it comes down to it, what's the goal of the brokerage? You know what I mean? Do you guys have like a certain margin that you're looking to capitalize at each time? You know what I mean? Is that something?
Well, I just want to back up a little bit. It depends on the brokerage.
Okay.
Some brokerages are startups. They don't have a lot of freight. So how they do their stuff is going to be a little bit differently.
Okay. Makes sense.
I work for corporations or a limited liability company. So they've been in business for years and years and years and years and years. They make their money on volume.
Okay.
So we can move our freight with lower margins, meaning, we're only making $25 or $50. But when you do 200 or more of those a day, that's how you make your money.
Right.
But if you're a smaller brokerage, then maybe you are trying to negotiate, 35% of your margin, whatever you get awarded the load for. You're trying to keep 35,000 because you maybe only have 4 loads a day.
Right.
Or if you're really, really fortunate, you have a very lucrative customer who's one of those ones that have a relationship with you and have a lot of money in the bank, and they're like, whatever, just charge me whatever.
Right. I mean, I heard the riches are in the niches, so
yeah.
I know many of freight brokers out here who are only going after expensive freight, only the stuff that costs top dollar, to purchase, so that they know they're going to spend at least a portion of that on getting it there safely. So they do.
But I do want to note, so many people in this industry are chasing after the money. The more let me see, the more they pay on their freight, there's probably more work involved.
Okay.
For instance, for a while I was shipping precious metals. There's a lot of money in that commodity.
What,
a lot of money.
Copper or gold?
Copper.
Okay.
Which means that you got to do more work. Your drivers have to have background checks. They have to take a safety class once they get on site. They have to pass the safety test. They have to have PPE. The hair can't be long. It's just so many other extra things. That extra money comes with extra work.
Okay. No, I definitely hear that. I mean, and that's kind of what you would imagine would happen. I think today, I think the same things that might have been required for those high precious or those high value cargoes 5 years ago is the norm for every single delivery today. You know what I mean? Like every customer wants transparency 24/7 while the freight is in the hands of the broker and or carrier. So I think technology at least helps some stuff. So if anybody's listening, I would say go after that higher paying situation if you have the option.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
But let me ask this, because, all right, you said that 10, 12, maybe whatever percentage is, solid for if you're going on volume. So this is kind of like where I am in the industry as a dispatch company owner. My whole entire goal is to get the, not necessarily the highest paying freight, just because, it's a delicate dance, but you want to book rates where your carrier can at least, live, pay their bills, and make the profit that they're looking to make. And the broker can also do the same thing. I feel as though what's happening, and I have to put my foot in the ground, is that the rates are going so low that, if a carrier or a dispatch service doesn't make that stand of like, hey, we can't accept something for this low, because if we do, how low will they really go? But now the same exact way that you say that the brokers are competing against one another, I feel as though that same exact mentality is happening on the carrier side. A brokerage might put something onto the load board and, 50 carriers are calling, especially if we're talking about box truck freight. So let's say it's 100 carriers calling. You know what I mean? So
Mm-hmm.
the low started being posted at maybe, 400 miles for $600, and the person that, has an understanding that fuel prices are at a higher rate, they might come over and say, hey, well, give me $3.50 a mile or something like that. And then, we have that whole back and forth saying, okay, well, this carrier, they just said they'll do it for $1.50 a mile. You know what I mean? Which is ridiculous, but it's happening all the time. Do you feel like a brokerage has some type of responsibility in there to say, 12%, I got that, but this carrier accepting it for $1.50 over here, that takes my margin over to, 40%. Do you feel like there's some type of, ethics or morals or some type of like, something, to make sure that everybody is winning versus one team, one party?
That's a tricky question because
True.
what
That's
rate?
what got you on the stage.
Yeah, what rate is not winning to you is winning to someone else.
True.
So,
I mean, a backhaul or something.
Yeah. So we don't really, intervene too much per se. We don't change the rates to increase the margin for box truck. I mean, I don't know what other brokers do, but the thing about box trucks, the problem is right now is that you're kind of like in that bidding war that I described. There's so many box trucks out there and everybody wants the same load and they'll underbid you. Like, oh man, wait. There's been so many calls I've taken where a guy will be like, oh man, I missed the load. What you cover it for? And I'll say it and he goes, man, I would have took it for, $100 cheaper,
Oh, see,
So
I
it's
hear
kind of
you.
like,
I hear you.
it's nothing that we're doing.
Right, I hear you.
The box truck operators are kind of bidding against each other, and so
Yeah,
we
no
just
doubt.
we
That's
just let
exactly
it
what's happening.
we let it do what it do.
Right. Okay. I mean, I understand. I definitely understand there. I mean, I guess me as the type of person I am, when I am privy to how much a carrier did accept it for, and I'm actually propositioning to say, will you take this for $50 less? I'm like, no, go ahead. If you already booked it with that person, go ahead, because I just know how much it sucks for me to think that I've already figured out a solution for one of my carriers just for the broker to come back and, give me some type of excuse as to why it's not going on now. So, that's just a personal thing for me, but I know what you're saying is true. You know what I mean? Like it happens every single day. I just
do want
want
to say this though,
go
real
ahead.
quick.
Go ahead.
Just I know but when we have box truck freight, just like I explained to you, we just get so inundated with calls. We don't want to post it. We don't want to deal with it. It's best for us just to call some people that we regularly deal with and say, hey, we have this load available. Are you interested? In the interest of saving us time and effort from taking 20, 50 calls on the same load and we're not able to do anything else but answer calls, sometimes we will just, that's why we call our core people before we post it up. And sometimes if we're able to pay more, we will, because we just don't want to spend the time to filter all those calls. And I would say probably 80% of people who call on box truck freight are not set up. They're not even eligible to be set up. So, it's not even worth the trouble. So like what we talked about, core carriers and what makes you attractive and building relationships and knowing how people service. For instance, like I said, you're great at your service and you're great at updates and booking trucks and keeping me posted. So we call people like you who do an excellent job. And if we're able to pay more, we will, because we just don't want to deal with trying to get a new carrier set up and hoping that driver's going to answer the phone and hoping they're going to be where they're supposed to be. And, I got to babysit them all day. I don't have time to babysit, and I just want to turn it over to someone I know that's going to do a great job.
Yes, ma'am.
And let it run. You know.
Okay.
So yeah.
Okay.
But yeah, box truck freight is tricky, and I would say that the only thing really right now that you could do to command more money would be to diversify, you know, box truck hazmat, box truck reefer, you know, something
Yeah,
that would
true. Very true.
distinguish you from the other, you know, people now are, the last two claims we've had have been from box truck operators renting Penske trucks. One flipped and the other one got stuck in a ditch. And I mean, it's just so crazy. So I would definitely, you know, diversify yourself, because now anybody and everybody is trying to operate a box truck. They don't even have a box truck. They're renting box trucks.
Yeah,
So,
very saturated. But I ain't gonna lie
mm-hmm.
though. I do have my top carrier. My top carrier is a box truck carrier right now, and
Mm-hmm.
she puts other folks to shame. I'm not even gonna lie to you. I'm talking
Mm-hmm.
about she renting her truck. You know what I mean? So like, some people are out here, you know, to do it the right way.
Oh yeah.
And, you know what I mean? Very knowledgeable, and you know, they're very professional about
I agree.
company. Yeah, but I can see how with the market
agree.
being saturated, you know, and you know, all these new folks just jumping in, maybe not having the, you know, the ancillary knowledge about.
Yeah. And I didn't mean to sound so pessimistic, because I have run across some really excellent new setup box truck carriers that did everything perfectly.
Okay.
Yeah, so
Okay. I just had to, you know, make sure I was sticking up for my folks that were renting trucks out here. You know what I mean? But it's no worries. But look, so do you still do stuff out of the that goes cross border? And if so, like, if somebody wanted to do that type of stuff, do you have like kind of like a breakdown, maybe a rundown of how to? And if not, it's cool. You know, I just know that you were doing that at one point in your career.
mm-hmm. So most of the cross-border shipments I did at one point were going into Canada. But as you all know, recently they had this whole truckers thing that slowed down the Canadian movements. It's just now starting to move again. And yes, actually, I think I moved one just last week. But really, what a carrier would need to do is, I'm going to start with Canada because every cross border is, you know, is different.
Okay.
The carrier would need to have it on their authority where they can go to Canada for one. The customer that gives us the freight will assign a customs broker to the freight.
Mm-hmm.
The customs broker is responsible for, you know, clearing the goods. The driver would get the shipment, get the BOL, and contact the customs broker. That customs broker will process the BOL and the CCI. I think it's like Canadian Commercial Invoice, I believe is what it stands for. And the customs broker will clear the crossing for the driver. And, you know, there are a lot of changes lately. You know, you have to have vaccine cards, and most of the Canadian, U.S. to Canada, Canada to U.S. carriers already have most of their drivers already vaccinated with vaccine cards. They already have the number. There's a number that Canada issues to allow them to do cross-border shipments. So, but yeah, we're still doing those. They're running smoothly. The biggest thing you have to be aware of is that Canada operates on different holidays in the U.S. So we have had some growing pains at one point, learning that that's a holiday in Canada. Your freight's not going to be accepted. Sometimes, every once in a while, our driver is held up at the border, but it's usually just like a typo thing. Usually with the providences, the codes, it's a lot different than the US. And if the driver makes a typo filling out the paperwork and the custom broker process it and it gets shot back, that would be the only delay a driver would experience. And the best part is they don't come to us and whine about it. They deal directly with the customs broker and get it taken care of and cross the freight.
Man. Look,
Yeah.
I didn't realize how close Canada was in certain places. My carrier just, was it yesterday? Yesterday accidentally went into Canada. Like, how do you do that? Like, just yesterday was in the Detroit area and got into the wrong lane. It was locked in.
It was heading to Windsor, huh? Windsor, Ontario.
Like, what? So, no, that's interesting. But do you feel like it's more lucrative to be able to have that type of stuff? Is that the type of set aside credentials that you're saying? Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Anything you do that pulls you out of your average move, yes. And they have to do some extra stuff to be able to do cross-border shipments, but it is lucrative,
Right.
It's definitely lucrative. Now, Mexico is kind of a different animal. I've never personally been responsible for moving the Mexican freight because, for one, I'm not bilingual. And a lot of the people that move the Mexican freight, they like to speak Spanish. So it's a little bit, it's a little bit different to do when you don't speak the native language. But
okay, you don't run into that with French in Canada?
No.
Okay,
I haven't run into that with Canada.
Okay,
but definitely with Mexico, and even getting it to its final destination is a little bit more cumbersome in Mexico because it gets held at the U.S.-Mexican border and inspected. And then, like, a freight forwarder will have to pick it up and take it to its final destination. Where in Canada, you can the driver that crosses can take it direct.
Right.
So, and then there's NAFTA agreement, like a NAFTA certificate that you have to do. And it's just a little bit more of a cumbersome process from what I understand from my coworkers that move the Mexican freight.
Okay.
Yeah, and it also takes a little longer to cross too than Canada.
Okay, I can feel it. I mean, all right. Well, look, I was going to transition, because you and I we've been communicating and booking loads with one another for a very long time, and when I first met you via phone, we might have had a relationship broker carrier for 2 years, and I found out some stuff after the fact, just by us being on the phone longer, or I guess talking about other stuff, and I would hear just a little bit something else, and are you comfortable with me going into this conversation? Because I just want to make sure that you are.
Yeah, it's fine.
Okay, cool. So, I distinctly remember us having a conversation about some load opportunity, and I heard you say something, and it was different than the way that you had been talking before. And it was something that I picked up so, naturally, because, I've heard that type of speech before. I was like, where are you from? You know what I mean? That's the question I said. Hey, hold on 1 second. Dee, where are you from? And you said Atlanta. And I said, what? Because at that point, I knew things were different than I had perceived them for 2 straight years. And, it was the colloquialisms that you used, the way that you said things that, alerted me to, okay, well, this is different than I imagined. All right. And just to say it plainly, do you want to put it in your own words or do you want me to say it?
You can say it and I'll respond.
Okay, cool. And then I want you to lead into as to, What?
Why?
Why? All right. So the whole entire time that we had our relationship, I thought you were a white lady. You
Mm-hmm.
know, I thought you were a white lady that I would just meet by talking on the low board, and the way in which you spoke, it was like, okay, cool. This is just another white lady. No, cool. But then I heard that dialect. I'm like, that's Atlanta. That's Southside Atlanta. I know it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, you can't, everything that I knew before is not right. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
so and now I ask you, why was that your, why'd you do that, and like why was that the way that you greeted people that you didn't know while in the
Mm-hmm.
freight industry, not in your
Mm-hmm.
regular day to day, but,
Mm-hmm.
in regards to freight brokering.
Mm-hmm. So, freight brokering is essentially sales, right? And you're
Right.
selling freight to carriers. Um, I kind of hit on it a little earlier, but when I first started in this industry, I didn't see a lot of people like me. It was actually people quite opposite of me.
Mm-hmm.
But, when I spoke to people on the phone, I wanted my delivery to come across as, professional, relatable, trustworthy. And I am aware that there's still people in this world that still discriminate, whether it's based on gender, age, ethnicity, they're out there, right? But I can't control all of those things. But I was saying, what I can control, I'm going to try to make a little bit of an effort because I don't want to be discriminated against. I don't want to stop my coins because someone may have a problem with, my ethnicity. Because essentially that's not what I'm here to do. I'm here to conduct business.
Right.
So I kind of try to make myself not as identifiable with my ethnicity. And I just didn't want to be discriminated against. And, I've shared with you that I've personally dealt with a company who flat out terminated business with me after they learned my ethnicity. And that was hurtful. And,
but how'd that happen? Like, describe like the relationship you had with them, and what led to that.
So I was doing business with them for probably about 2 years and just, did what I do, conducted myself professionally and did everything that my job required. And
this was a commissions position, like something.
This was a position that involved commission.
Mm-hmm.
And, and I had a coworker who was also on a commission base. And he felt that it was prudent to let this company know that I was of African American descent, and that company no longer dealt with me, and therefore I no longer received a commission from working with this particular company. And to make matters worse, the dispatcher that I was working with this company, he called me. He asked me, "Are you really black?" Just very, very, very insensitive and racially offensive questions that were really, really hurtful. And he said that I take speech lessons, and what did I do to learn to articulate myself, and just a lot of very hurtful things. And he's like, "Wow, I'm surprised." Then after that, I never heard from him again. I reached out to him a few times. He wouldn't take my calls, and I ended up losing that carrier to move freight for me at that time.
Right. Yeah. Right. And, I ask this because I feel like this is something that is not talked about probably enough. Maybe it's not even on the radar of the majority of people. But the whole notion of having to, car switch, you talk one way, with your family, with your friends, just out and about, and, having to be on alert and speak almost a completely different way, in a professional environment, just for the sake of being able to maintain income, or, maintain what somebody would perceive you to be professional, or something like that. And, I wanted to talk about it just because, I too probably have had those type of, you know, conversations. Well, the way in which I speak. I was raised in a very proper household. My brother, the person who I wanted to be like more than anybody in this world, was a very smart dude, and he didn't use slang. You know what I mean? So I spoke proper English, and that's just me. But the whole point is, I still have to, or at one point in my life, it was something that I felt like I did have to put on. And, now it's less that I don't have to think about it as much where I am in life today. But the fact is, that's how you and I met. And, I just wanted to know, do you feel like the climate is still the same, or do you feel like, it's changing, to be more favorable for you?
It's still the same.
Oh,
It's still the same. It's not worse.
oh man.
It's still the same. It's still the same.
Okay. So, I mean, is there anything that you feel as though, you and I can do just, by talking here on this platform, that could help change that? Or do you feel as though it's it's going to take some help, from more people?
I think these people that discriminate, they are who they are, and they're going to do it regardless. For people like me, that was a choice that I chose to make, was to try to not make it as identifiable, my ethnicity. But some people may not choose to make that choice. That's a personal decision. Some people may feel like, no, I'm gonna be me, regardless. So, but at the time, I was ambitious. I was driven. I didn't want anything like that to stop me. And I guess that's a personal question for people conducting business and logistics. If you want to do that, some people may say, well, hey, if they can't accept who I am and what I am, I don't want to do business with them anyway. So there's not really advice I can give,
Right?
But I do believe that it's a personal decision.
Right. Okay. Yeah. No, I respect that. 100%. And just know that I'm here in whatever capacity I can to help, and just whatever I can do to help. That's I would just leave it at that.
Thank you.
Yeah, no doubt. So at the end of the day, I did want to just say thank you for joining us on stage. Were there any questions from the audience? Because we have been on for about an hour now, and we definitely want to respect Dee's time. So if there were any questions, please go ahead and raise your hand. We'll leave that open for about 30 seconds. But at the end of the day, like I was saying, we've been working together so long. It's a pleasure to finally be able to have you on the Transportation and Logistics Clubhouse and highlight you for all the skills that you have. We've been booking freight for forever, and you're definitely one of those folks that I know if I have a question, I can definitely get it answered, just by giving you a quick call or a quick text. So you've definitely been a resource for me. So just want to say thank you. For you guys who don't know, Dee is very, very humble. So she's not going to say that she's also consulting. But if you are interested, I would say just click on her image and you will see her information. She does have her email address. And just so I can say it, because people are going to hear this after the fact, it is the letter D, consults 1020 at gmail.com. So holla at her. Okay. So I did get a question. Does she mentor? I don't know. Dee, do you mentor or do you consult?
Yes.
Or both?
Yes, I can mentor. That's fine. Mm-hmm.
Okay. Well, I definitely feel like you would want to just go ahead and message her because it seems like she'd be open. Okay. So that right there is that. So at the end of we got one speaker. Oh, I hadn't seen this little lady in forever. Man, I pray that grandbaby having a ball over there because when I see your Instagram page, that's all I see is your grandbaby. What's up,
Christy?
Hey, Christy. Hey, y'all. Hey, everybody.
Hey.
Dee, I just wanted to say, like, I'm just so proud of you. You've done amazing. But you guys, Dee sounds so soft-spoken and so meek and humble here. Let me tell you, I have been working directly with Dee for, 6 years now, almost 7. And she is a beast. Do not let that smooth talk fool you. She is a beast. She definitely knows what she's talking about and what she's doing. And when I tell you, like, sometimes she blows my mind. We work very closely together, and she helps me with some of my stuff, and she just blows my mind. And that's all. I just wanted to come up here and give you your flowers, Dee. And hey, Jory, it has been forever. We do need to catch up. The grandbaby is amazing. I made it up to see her. She is a doll. She's, the pictures just don't do it justice, what's in person. You don't get a grandparent talking about their grandchild because
we gonna be here for hours, ain't we?
Yeah, we'll be here another hour. But I just wanted to come up and give Dee her flowers and let y'all know. She is very humble and very meek on here. But when it gets down to business, baby, Dee is on fire. Don't.
Thank you, Christy.
No problem.
Thank you for coming up, Christy. Truly appreciate it.
All right.
Just like she said, Dee is definitely professional. She's efficient, and she's going to get the work done. So thank you for reinforcing that, Christy. What's up, Kenneth? How you doing, brother?
Hey, guys. I'm doing good. I'll keep it short. Don't want to hold anybody longer. It's just a question from the carrier side, basically what I'm dealing with right now. What would be the best way to deal with these lower rates that I've been dealing with from a broker side? Or what would be the best approach I could take?
The best approach you can take is keep looking for that broker that's going to give you what you're looking for. Really, keep calling. Just keep calling until you find what you need on your money. And let them know, too. A lot of times I take calls from people and they say, that's too cheap and hang up. Let them know. Let them know what you need to move. And you never know. You may hit them at the right time where the customer just sent an email that says, hey, I got to get this picked up right now. Pay whatever you got to pay. You never know. Just so keep calling around till you get that broker to give you what you need on your money. And let them know. Again, let them know what you're looking for.
Right. I would agree. I definitely make sure that first rate that is being stated is what is ideal for my carriers that I dispatch for. And I would say this, last week we had Shannon Breen of Freightvana, and he made a very, very great point of, if you're treating everything transactional, you want to get paid transactional. If you find a great broker who is paying you what you are looking for, don't let that just stay, tick for tat, show value and show yourself in other ways so that you can build on that relationship because like Dee said, they're out there. You're going to run into them. If you're persistent, you're definitely going to run into the folks that are going to treat you and give you the things that you want. It's just once you do have it, it's on you to, kind of keep it, to really grow that relationship.
Right.
No, that definitely makes a lot of sense. Obviously I agree with you guys. Because I have found certain brokers where they're extremely nice. They pay very well, very professional. but then sometimes they don't have enough freight. They don't have enough freight that I need. They're not moving the lane as much as I like. But I guess it's just I'm being a bit impatient. I should just keep on calling.
Well, true. I mean, yeah. I mean, you can say that, but at the same time, you're entitled to your own opinion. It's your experience. But I would just say that just stay persistent, man. If you're consistent, you're persistent. You're going to get it. At that point, you're going to say, "Can you keep it?" You know what I mean? So yeah, just. And what type of equipment do you have?
Dry van.
Okay, 53 footer.
Yes, sir.
Okay. I mean, well, truth be told, man, let's talk after this. But I mean, if you have that, I'm not, it might be easier than you think to get the lane with the amount of money that you're seeking. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I figured it was just connections at this point that I haven't not talking to enough people. Hey, that's on me.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, well, holla at Dee, holla at Chris. They're freight brokers, brother. You know what I mean? So, they definitely have access to that type of freight. But yeah, did you have anything else, Kenneth?
That's it for me, guys. I'm not going to hold you any longer.
All right, brother. Well, look, man, appreciate you coming up to the stage. Miss D, did you have anything that you want to say before we closed out?
Yes, actually, I do. I kind of vent to Chrissy about this sometimes. I just want to stress people that are new to this industry, please, educate yourself. Educate yourself, please, before jumping in this, because, I get calls and certain loads require certain things. And sometimes people will say, yeah, okay, yeah, I'll do that. And then the requirement is there and they're like, oh, what did that mean? So then they're coming back to me afterward and asking for extra money. I mean, just educate yourself. Know your equipment types. Know your terminology. I have so many people coming back to me in the middle of transits or after the transits, even detention, how much are you going to pay detention? Well, can I resolve the issue for you? Can I get your driver offloaded first? What dock is your driver in? Like, they're not even giving me information to get the driver offloaded. They're focused on, how much are you going to pay me? Just get educated. And when you're calling on freight and you're getting the descriptions of the freight, know the terminology. Know what an air ride is. Know what a e-track trailer is. Know this stuff, because you're accepting freight and you're moving it, and then you're surprised in the middle of the transit, and then it becomes an issue that I have to resolve.
Know what tailgating is.
Yeah, that's what I want to say. Thank you, Chrissy. Exactly.
Well, tell them.
That's one of the biggest issues. I just have a lot of issues that I have to deal with during the day, and it's because people are jumping in this and they don't know, they don't know what they're doing. And I know everybody has to learn. I'm not, making any judgments on that. I want you to learn, but, please don't sign a rate con and commit yourself to do things with terminology you don't even know what it means. And then when you find out, it's a problem. So that's all I want to say. But also too, I know that the rates are, everybody's dealing with the fuel crisis, and just hang in there. It'll get better, and stay firm on your rates. And everybody thinks brokers take the majority of the money, but there will be a customer or a broker that will get you what you need. You just have to be persistent. And also, like Jory said, definitely build those relationships.
All right. Well, I appreciate you so much. That's it for this week, folks. Join us on Monday, 7:30 a.m. as we partner with Freightways to talk about where to send those trucks and where to avoid sending those trucks. So Monday, 7:30 a.m., we're going to be partnering with Freightways Sonar Team. So I'll see you then. Next week, we should be having, do I want to put this out there? Well, I might as well. Actually, no, I'm not. I'll see you guys next week. It's a surprise. I'll see you next week for the surprise next Wednesday. All right, y'all. Well, again, thank you so much, Dee. You have a blessed evening. Christy, Kenneth, y'all have a blessed one. Thank you for the support, everybody. I got my lady. Got my buddies. I have my brother in here. Where you at? What's up, John? Good to see you, man. God bless everybody. Y'all have a great evening.